What's up guys, Andre here, and today I'd like to implement a mega menu using Tailwind CSS and Vue. If you saw my last few videos, we created a search component and a drop-down component that feels good to use and is keyboard accessible. So we have this search component here. You can search for stuff, you can scroll through them. We have this drop-down here, which is also keyboard accessible with the tab keys and the arrow keys. And now we're going to build out this mega menu, which looks great and is also keyboard accessible. So you can tab through them and shift tab through them, just like everything else we built. So this mega menu is based off of one of Steve Schoger's tweets, which you can see here. Definitely take a look at his design tips, which I will link to below. Okay, let's get started. So I have a starting point here. I've just added a few menu items. So this is the version without the mega menu, and we'll put it here in features. And I've added a few more menu items here just so the mega menu has room on the right. Okay, so let's see what we did here. So I added this mega menu component, which is next to the search component, and I added a few more, like I said. And the mega menu is right here, and it just has features. So the first step is to just get something shown on the page, and we have a relative class here, and we're going to position it absolutely just like we've done for the other two components that we built. So for this video I will go through the CSS because for the other ones I skip through them. So it's mostly going to be CSS because the keyboard accessibility is pretty much the same as the last video. So if I save this and refresh, so there we go. We have this, and this will be a good starting point for us. So the first thing I'm going to do is just move it over to the left a bit. So so we have more room. So I was going to use this as a starting point, but we'll build it from this point here. So style equals left -60 pixels. And that should bump it over to the left. Okay. And it changes to white. And let's add a shadow. And let's just make it rounded. And just overflow hidden so the corners look right. And there we go. It's looking good. Let's add a border on it too. Border. Okay, cool. Is it even, I don't even think it's hot reloading. Let me just restart this. Okay, let's start with this section here. Oops. So this section. So it looks like we need 2 columns, and just by eye, it looks like this is not exactly 50%. But in the version I did, I just made it 50% and it looks fine. So let's go ahead and do that. So back to our code. Let's go ahead and add a flex container. And let's add the 2 columns. So dot width 1/2. And let's put some text in there. Let's duplicate this. And let's see how that looks. Sorry, there's no matching tag. Actually, no, I meant to duplicate this one. Cool. Yeah, there's something wrong with the hot reloading. Okay, cool. So we have 2 columns. Let's go ahead and put some padding on them. Actually, I'm going to put it here. Yes, I am referencing this underneath. But I'm just doing this so you can see the process instead of me just skipping it. And there's a border bottom. You probably can't see that yet, but it's for the next section. This border right here. And let's add a gap here. So we are going to put a px on these 2. And we're going to put a negative margin on this. Now there should be a gap, and there is. Now let's add this section here. So I'm going to make that just an unordered list. So after this flex item, let's just make a unordered list here. Let's put one in there. And let's give it BG gray 100. And let's give it some padding. And let's put some stuff in there. Just see if it renders correctly. And it does. Maybe I'll make it BG gray 200. Okay, that looks good. Let me see. Yeah, it should be 100, but I'll leave it as 200 here just so you can see it. Okay, so for these two, I want to have two unordered lists. So one of these is a UL and one of these is a UL. You can probably have one and just use Flexbox, but the way I have it is using two ULs, and we'll just keep it that way. So each one of these sections will have their own unordered list. Actually, what I did here was I swapped the div out with an unordered list. And yeah, that should work. No, VS Code is screwing up. I don't want to. It should be a div still. And this one should be an unordered list. This one should be a list item. And this would be the anchor tag. Class equals flex. And this will be the SVG, and the next item will be, what's the next item? So this will be one flex item, and this will be the other flex item, and the whole thing is an anchor link. So the whole thing is an anchor link. Let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to use spans because we're within an anchor link, and divs are not valid. So let me just do this. Put another span. Make a block. This one will be engagement. And this one will be measure actions users take. Let's just say SVG. See how this looks. Okay, so that's a start. And let me show you my SVG process. So what is this? This is a bar graph. So I showed this in one of my other videos, but let me show it again for anyone who didn't see it. I have this app called Icon Jar, which I import all of my icon sets into, SVG icon sets. And you can see all of them here. They're all free, so just Google them and you'll find them. And you can, well, Icon Jar is not free, but if you decide to purchase it, then you can import them. And now I can just search. So I'm going to search for graph. And there it is. And from here, I can either import it into my design program, or I can just grab the SVG from here. SVG inline code. And from here, I do one more step to optimize my SVGs. I go to an app called SVG OMG, paste it in here, and you can see the savings here. It's not much, but I still do this not only for the file savings, but the markup is shorter than if you didn't do it. So that's easier to maintain and see in your code. So let's see how this looks. Okay. And I also do one more step here. I add a fill of current color, and then I add the color in here, either in here or it inherits from the parent. So I'm going to set it manually here because it's different from the parent. Text blue 500. That should make it blue. Cool. And let's go ahead and push this side over. So this will be ML2. And I'm just going to grab all the text here, just paste it in. It's just basic typography and spacing, and ignore the group hover. I will take a look at that later, or right after this. And that should look good now, and it looks pretty good. Let's take a look. So yeah, I'm happy with that. I'm going to ignore the badge. It's not necessary for what we're doing here. I'll probably add it in the finished version. Okay, so I'm happy with that. So this is an anchor link, and I want the text color to change when I hover over it. But there are 3 items here, so this is where something called group hover in Tailwind comes in handy. So let me show you. So group hover. Where is it? Right here. So if you need to style a child element when hovering over a specific parent element, you can add the group class to the parent and then just add the group hover prefix on the children. So here's an example here. But we also have to set the variant in the Tailwind config. So if you scroll down, you have to add this. And in our case, we want to add group hover to text color. So let's do that first. Do I have the default? Okay, let me open up the default Tailwind config and show you what I mean. So here's the default Tailwind config in the node modules Tailwind CSS folder, default config.stub.js. And if you look for variants, you'll see text color down here, right here. And we have to add group hover for that to work in our Tailwind config. So we just add it here. And let's add group hover. And now, like the docs say, you have to add a group, and then you can do group hover on all the children. So in our case, the parent is this, so group hover, group, and then we can change these to whatever we want. So group hover, and I just want to make it darker. So text blue 800. So I want this to happen for all of the elements. So copy this. So nothing's going to happen here because it's already text blue 800, but for this, it's going to happen as well. So I'll just put it on both. So now this should work, hopefully, and it does. Cool. It's really subtle, but it makes a difference. So let me just duplicate this just to see how 3 items looks, and then I'll go behind the scenes and add the rest of them. So I'm just going to duplicate this 2 times. Okay, looking good. And let's grab the whole UL and just put it in here. Sorry, in here. Okay. Cool, so that's looking pretty good. And the hovers work on all of them, awesome. So I'll go ahead and change these behind the scenes. Okay, so I added the rest of the icons and the copy. So let's go ahead and move on to this section. So looks like it's pretty much the same thing, except it's just one flex container with 3 items in it. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. So down here, li, and it's the same thing. It's going to be an anchor tag. And let's make it flex. And items center. And it's going to grab the first SVG here. And then this one will be documentation. My VS Code doesn't want to work, so I have to type this out. Documentation. And then the next one is, so this should be block. Next one is the copy. Start integrating products and tools. Okay. And that looks pretty good. Again, I'm just going to copy this and paste it in and see how that looks. Looks pretty good. And let's put a margin bottom on this. And let's duplicate this a few times. And then I will just paste in the rest of them. I also have to add the group hover on these. So yeah, I'll add these behind the scenes and I'll be back. Okay, so I've added the rest of them, and you can tweak the spacing. It looks like there's more space in the design here, but I'm okay with this. And because of the way I laid it out, it's already somewhat keyboard accessible, so we can tab through them if it's opened. So that's good. So let's first work on the mouse accessibility. So I want to do this on hover, just like it works in Stripe or any other mega menu. Usually it's hover. Click is fine too. I just see hover used more often. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's add some state and some methods here. So I'm going to go to here, add script. Give me a second, I'm going to restart my VS Code. Okay, now my VS Code somewhat works. So now let's add some state. Say is visible. Again, a lot of this is similar to the last two videos, or at least the last video. Set it to false. Let's make some methods here. Let's add a show menu and a hide menu. So this dot is visible, true, and same for hide menu, but false. Okay, now we can listen for the event here. So the event we're going to listen for is mouse over and mouse leave. So mouse over equals show menu, and mouse leave hide menu. So let's go ahead and save this. Actually, let's set the conditional here. I'm going to do a vshow. Vshow is probably more optimal. You're not going to notice the difference, but it just sets display none. So in the last video I used VF, so I'll use vshow here. Again, you should be consistent, but whatever. Okay, so is visible. So, okay, it's false, but if I hover over it, there it is, cool. But if I hover off of it into the menu, that's not going to work because I'm hovering off of this anchor tag. So that's not where we want to define our events. We want to define it in the parent right here, because this is the container that holds everything. So even if we hover over the menu, it should still show. But we're going to have to take the, so this is right now, it should still work the same way. Let me just refresh it. But it's still not going to work because there is a margin top on the menu here. So let me get rid of that. So right here, if I get rid of this, then it should work, because it's right up on the menu item. So now it won't disappear. Okay, that's the behavior we want, but I still want that margin top. So I kind of just made a hack here. So what I did was add another item here. Make it absolute as well, and width full. Let's say another So you'll see it there. But now this will let me hover over that little gap there. If I put the margin back here. And this should work the way we want it to. See, so that's there, and it lets me hover over here. And the menu won't disappear. So that's a little hack. And to get rid of that, just put a non-breaking space. So that's the way I solved it. Not sure if there's a better way. Cool. And now even here, it still shows up. Awesome. Okay, let's add the same transition that we put here. It's just a little subtle transition with opacity and transform translate. So that is in our search component. No, drop-down menu. So I'm going to do the same thing. Let's add transition on this. Let's call it mega menu fade. And where does this end? Right here. Transition. And we don't need all this. And let me just indent this. Okay. Cool. And we add the CSS. It's the same thing. I can just reuse the CSS. Just take the scope out of here. But I'm going to keep it separate just in case I want to change one of them. And I want them to work independently of one another. So I'm going to paste that in. Change drop down to mega menu. And now there should be a nice transition when we hover over it. There we go. Cool. Awesome. Okay, now let's work on some of the keyboard accessibility. So the way I want it to work is once you focus this features menu item, then I want the menu to show up because that's the equivalent of hover for the keyboard. So that's easy enough. Let's go ahead and go to the anchor tag up here. Let's add a focus event listener and let's show menu. Okay, now there it is. Cool. So I also want the menu to hide once we no longer have focus here. So if you go backwards here, then I want it to hide. So that would be a shift tab. And if we go forward here, so if you press tab on the last one, I want it to hide. So let's handle those two cases. Start with this one since we're already here. So it'll be key down dot shift dot tab hide menu. And for the last menu item here, so yeah, I already have it here because I pasted this in. So it's key down dot tab dot exact, and we hide the menu, so that should work. So let's test both out. So shift tab disappears, cool. But now tab on the last one should disappear as well. Awesome. Now escape, I want escape to hide it. So just like how we did in here, we have to add it to not only here, but all of the items. So we have to do the same here. So let's add it on the anchor tag and see if it works. And I'm not going to add it to the rest in the video, but I'll add it in the final code. So key down dot escape dot exact equals hide menu. And it's added to one of them down here. Right here. So it should work on here. Escape. Cool. And it should work on this one too. And it does. Awesome. Okay, I'm not going to do the arrow keys because it's pretty much the same thing we did in the last video, aside from one difference, which I'll show you right now. So for this, it's the same process. Like I just said, we have to keep track of an index. And then every time we either shift or press the down or up arrow, that index goes up or goes down. So increments or decrements. And the way we did that was we had a ref on the parent. So in this case, we had a ref on this entire element, and then we just looked at the index from the children. So let me show you what I mean. So drop-down menu, we have a ref, not an href, right here, a ref on the parent, and then we have the index, and then every time we tab or press down, we just increment or decrement the index, and that's how we keep track of it and focus the next item. But in this case, having a ref on the parent is not going to work because there is no parent. Like I said, if you saw, this is one UL, this is another UL, and this is another UL here. So the way I got around to doing that is just querying the DOM, which in general you shouldn't do in Vue, but in this case, not you shouldn't do, but it's not good practice to do so. But like I said, in this case, it's the only solution I can think of, and it's actually not too bad. So let me show you what I mean. Let me add a mounted method, mounted hook. And let me add a piece of state here called menu items. And it's null by default. So all we want to do, again, my VS Code stopped working, is just query the DOM here. So if you look at our structure, we just want all of these anchor tags within the menu. So the easiest way to do that is just to have a master div here. Where is it? Yeah, so this is the master div that houses the entire mega menu. So we can just query mega menu and just grab the anchor tags within them. So let's do that. Query selector document dot query selector all, and let's just do menu anchor tag. And now this should be equivalent to our ref. So let me just start it here. So I have to add one more piece of state called focused index, and 0 to start. And the way that the dropdown works, let me show you. If you didn't watch the last video, let me just tab through this. If you're on the menu item and you press up or down, then it should show the dropdown. Sorry, if it's visible and you press up or down, it should show the dropdown. Not show it, it should focus the first item. So I have this start arrow keys function right here. I'm going to do the same thing just to show you how to focus items, and then it's pretty much the same. And I'll add this code to the final version, but for now, my VS Code is going crazy. I'm not pressing the keyboard right now, and it's going nuts. Okay. Let me add these two listeners, key down up and key down down. And I'm going to add a start arrow keys method. Start arrow keys. And all I want to do is focus the first item. So in this case, we have this menu items. And the first one is the one that's 0 index. And we can just call focus on that. Okay, so if I save this, and let me just refresh this. And now, if I press up, it should focus on engagement. And it does not. Oh, sorry, this is mega menu. Yes, sorry about that. This should work now. So I'm going to press up and it should focus engagement, or down. There we go. So that's how you would get started on the arrow keys. It's the exact same process as I did for here. Like I said, I will add it to the final code. So there you have it, guys. We managed to build out this mega menu, which looks nice and is also keyboard accessible, just like all of the other components we built in our menu here. Hope you like this one, and I hope you learned something new. Please like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next one. Okay, thanks. Bye.